Hi, I'm Tia with Badass Therapy, and thank you for joining me. We are now on video 5 of 6 in the Cues of Safety in Danger series. So, still talking about a presentation by Deb Dana in preparation for me administering the Safe and Sound protocol at a distance, right? So, for online therapy. So, one of the things that she talked about was that it is unrealistic and it's unhealthy to always be in ventral, right? That safe and social space, right? We're at our healthiest when we are flexible, when we can quickly and easily move between these states, right? So I don't want to get stuck in any one of these, right? So if there is, a situation that's unsafe, right? I want to be able to mobilize really quickly, right? If there is a situation of life threat, right? I want to be able to go into that collapsed state. I want to be able to protect myself in that different way. And so we want to be able to move between these, right? When I have that thing that stresses me out, right, I want to be able to react to it. And I also want to be able to quickly go back into that safe and social, relaxed space. So one of the examples that she gave was that when we're playing, right, and we lose connection, right, meaning the other person has stopped connecting with us, right? So for example, with my siblings, it was always that they would tickle me to the point that I couldn't breathe. So I hate being tickled, right? So when we're first playing, when we're first doing tickling, right, it's fun. But when they stop connecting to me, when they stop paying attention to my cues, then I move from that ventral, right, that safe and social, into that sympathetic, right? And so my body now is reacting as though there's something dangerous or something too stressful, and I become aggressive, right? So that's then when I hit my brother, right? And we go to our mom, and he says, I was just tickling her. And I say, but he didn't stop when I would have wanted him to. And so I hit him, right? And so when, that's a chance where we need to be able to move into that sympathetic, right? But then I also then when he says, "Oh, I'm sorry," right? I didn't pay attention to that, right? Then I can quickly move back into that ventral space. So one of the interesting ideas is that without any specific regulation, our hearts are designed to beat crazy fast, right? And so they go sort of like a runaway train. And so there's this system called the vagal brake, right? So we've talked about that vagus nerve, and it suppresses our heart rate to 60 to 80 beats per minute. And so it is what helps, right, when we, helps us with that flexibility, right? And so when we inhale, the vagal brake releases, right? So our heart rate speeds up when we inhale, and it kicks back on, right? It re-engages when we exhale. And so this is why we see our heart rate variability, right? So my heart rate is different when I'm breathing in from when I'm breathing out. And that's why when I teach breathing, right, when I'm teaching how to regulate yourself, how to calm yourself, that's why I talk to people about making sure that you're breathing out for longer than you're breathing in, right? Because you are spending more time in that slower heart rate. And so this vagal brake helps us with being able to move between those systems, right? Being able to mobilize, right? When we talked about that sympathetic nervous system, right, that moves us into this more mobilized, right? That's because that vagal brake comes off, right? When we're talking about moving into I think it's dorsal, right? But also ventral, right? That vagal brake kicks back on. We slow back down. So it's really important to only challenge our systems to a certain point, right? So within therapy, we talk a lot about this window of tolerance, right? This idea that we want to push you to a certain point, but not so far that you go into sympathetic or dorsal, right? So the idea of knowing what these experiences feel like in your body helps me in therapy, right? Because we can help make sure that we're stretching your limits so that you can savor your growth, right? So we want to be able to stretch, and then we want to be able to say, yeah, look at me, right? We want to be able to celebrate those experiences. But if we go too far, we put your body into stress. It goes into survival mode, right? It kicks into this sympathetic or this dorsal. And that releases that vagal brake, right? Particularly if we go into sympathetic, right? If we go into survival. And so it's a struggle, right? In therapy, if we are reinforcing the idea that when we talk about this thing, we go into the survival mode, right? We go into this protective mode. Then that just tells your body again that, yep, this thing isn't safe. And so when we're doing this in therapy, right, we really want to make sure that you're staying in this space of being able to talk about it while staying regulated, right? Part of the beauty of therapy is that somebody else is there to help co-regulate. Somebody else is there to help you stay safe. one of my clients, we were talking about, how they dissociate. And that I oftentimes will point out things like a bird out the window or a tree out the window, or we'll make some sort of joke. And she was talking about how I've said all sorts of crazy ass shit when she's been dissociated, but it's because that's what, catches her and brings her back, right? So having that other person in the room to help you, right? And help you start to learn how not to automatically go into that sympathetic, not to automatically go into that dorsal, and help you practice staying in that ventral when you're talking about these stressful things, right? That reteaches the body that we can talk about those things and it's not a dangerous thing. It's not a life threat, right? In this moment that I'm talking about it. Right, that vagal brake allows us to rapidly engage and disengage. It allows us to quickly energize and then calm. And it makes those transitions really easy for us, right? Of moving in and out of those things, right? So often with trauma, right, we get stuck in one of those. And so we really want to have this vagal brake flexibility. And so part of what the Safe and Sound protocol does is that it stimulates that vagal brake, right? So it helps us move into it, it helps us move out. And so it helps us to have more flexibility, because the longer we stay in something like sympathetic or dorsal, the harder it's going to become for us to move back and forth between these different states. So ventral vagal is our home, right? That's the home place where when we're healthy, right? When it's safe and social. And we will still move from that, right? That's what she talks about anchoring, right? We still move from that into sympathetic, right? We're going to have those moments where we have to mobilize. We're going to have those moments where we need to, go into more of that collapse, go into more of that relaxing. And so in order to build up ventral vagal as our home, we just need more and more moments, right? So even if that moment is 10 seconds, right? You just need more and more 5 seconds, more and more 2 seconds, right? To help you build up ventral vagal as your home. And so one of the things that she talks about paying attention to is which one is your home away from home, right? So what's the one that you tend to go to more often when you aren't feeling safe and social? Like, is it sympathetic? Is it dorsal, right? Do you tend to go into this fight or flight, edgy, hypervigilant kind of space? Or do you tend to go into this more collapsed space, right? This more disconnected, this more checked out. One of the things she talked about that I found really interesting was the idea that we cannot go directly from dorsal, right? This super collapsed space into ventral, safe and social, right? We have to actually go from collapsed into the sympathetic nervous system response, right? We have to go into that mobilizing. We have to go into that space of, being ready to fight. And then we can move into feeling safe and social. Right. So I think the best example of this that I can think of is after surgery, right? We're oftentimes in that dorsal, right? We're in that like checked out kind of, sleepy, collapsed space. And oftentimes you'll see people kick into this like really anxious, really activated, really stressed out. And so for me, right, after surgery, I'm in the like really chill, really collapsed, kind of checked out space after surgery. And then I kick into this place where I'm super aggressive and I'm just mean. I say mean things. I just fucking hate being in the hospital. I just want to go. I just want to run away. I just want to get out of there. And then eventually I can calm down and go into this space of safe and social. Right. So you can see this with folks when they kind of pop out of that collapsed space, that then they have to go into this mobilization before they can feel safe and social. And so one of the ideas that she talked about was how do we experience each of these states was the idea of grief, right? In pandemic world, everybody's grieving, everybody lost something, right? And so the idea that when we're in this safe and social space and we're feeling grief, we're able to really feel the loss, right? We're able to be sad, we're able to process it, we're able to move through it. When we're in sympathetic, we are angry, right? We're pissed off about the loss. We're pissed off that we lost it. We want to just pretend like we, didn't lose anything. We just want to get away from it. We want to move away from it, right? We want to do something about it. And when we're in dorsal, we just go into despair, right? We're just straight in like, this all sucks. We collapse. We give up. We don't do anything. And so it's really important for us to do these things where we're able to flow between these things, right? I hear clients talk a lot about how they feel like they can't go into ventral vagal, right? They can't go into that positive, happy, social resting place because they worry that if something dangerous happens, they're not going to be able to mobilize themselves. But the more we're able to move through each of these different stages, the more we're going to have that flexibility, right? The more when I'm doing something safe and social, the more it's going to be easy for me to move into this space of mobilizing. we have to rest, we have to heal in order for our bodies to have any resources left to go into sympathetic, right? If we're in that stressed out place for too long, we go into collapse because we don't have the resources to do anything anymore. So it's really important for us to have this ability to shift between these things. So thank you so much for joining me. This is video 5 of 6, so we've got one more of these, and so I hope you decide to join me for the next video.